What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between INFJs and INTJs. I got my vodka Red Bull here. I don't know if you guys drink. I'm definitely like more of like a fruity cocktail type of guy. I've never really been into beers or like IPAs or like that hard liquor stuff. But anyways, so yeah, nothing wrong with having a little vodka Red Bull nightcap before we talk about Myers-Briggs. So without further ado, all right, let's actually get into the video. So what is the difference between INTJs and INFJs, and more importantly, how do they think? So on paper, INTJs and INFJs are one letter apart, right? It's the F and the T. But in reality, it's like they are playing two totally different mental games. So let's break this down and let's start with what they do share. So the first thing that they share is obviously the dominant function, which is introverted intuition. So both INFJs and INTJs lead with this dominant function, this NI. This is their internal pattern recognizing system. This is how they view the world. This is how they process information, this intuitive, this introverted intuition. So they're not fixated on what is happening in the moment, but they are connecting the dots to just really uncover, what is going on beneath the surface, beneath the conversations, beneath the subtleties in the air. Both types look for underlying meanings. They synthesize information. They predict outcomes into this single cohesive insight. So they do not just see what is, but they intuit what will be, what things can become. So for both types, this inner vision becomes their compass. It becomes their anchor. And it's not always explainable in words. So sometimes it's a hunch, and sometimes it's a full-fledged revelation that seemingly will just come out of nowhere. And oftentimes for both of these types, it's like their gut feeling is the truth. If you were to ask 99% of INTJs or INFJs, it's like they view this introverted intuition, this gut feeling, as the truth, as the thing that guides them through life. While their intuition works in similar ways, the way that it is applied differs drastically. So INTJs on one hand have their auxiliary function as the extroverted thinking, and INFJs have extroverted feeling. So this one letter difference actually reflects an entirely different approach to how they organize their outside world. INFJs with extroverted feeling tend to evaluate decisions based on the emotional context, the interpersonal dynamics, and these collective values, right? So their intuition is often channeled towards understanding people and relationships, this emotional atmosphere, if you will. So they're deeply attuned to how others feel, and they try to maintain that emotional harmony in their environment. So their thinking is, guided by this move of, does this feel right to me? Is this decision aligned with my emotional values? Is my decision considerate of the needs of, the people around me? So things like that. INTJs, on the other hand, with this extroverted thinking, operate on an entirely different plane that is focused more on, systems, the process, and ultimately results. So they use their intuition to form long-term strategic visions, and then they'll use extroverted thinking to basically just map out the most efficient way to get there, right? So it's like, what's the most efficient way to go from A to B? So they're asking themselves the question, what data supports this decision? What kind of system do I need in place in order to achieve X, Y, and Z? So in short, INFJs will filter their intuitive insight through the lens of this emotional awareness, the social context. INTJs, on the other hand, will filter this intuitive process through objective structure and execution. So let's just put this into a real life example. Let's say the INTJ and the INFJ, they get a job offer in big old New York City, right? Best pizza in the world. No, I don't know. I've only been there like once. But so the INTJ is going to start mapping things out very logistically. Him or her is going to have this conversation with themselves. What's the timeline for this move? What is my projected ROI going to be if I decide to take this job and move to New York City? Does this accelerate my long-term career goals? So this decision is based on how well this offer aligns with measurable progress and their internal strategy, right? Is this going to be the best move for me? Is this going to be the best ROI? INFJs, on the other hand, will go through a very similar process. However, they are going to filter this decision based on the emotional resonance that they're feeling towards it, if it is satisfying. And so they'll ask themselves, will I be fulfilled by this work? Am I going to be able to make friends there? How will this affect my relationships? How close is the closest coffee shop? Is it within walking distance to the new penthouse, right? So both types might still take the job, but for the INFJ, this process will involve much more introspective analysis and emotional impact. So the INTJ is optimizing for performance, for long-term ROI, and ultimately control. Another key difference here that I want to mention is in how these types perceive themselves and manage their internal experiences. INFJs are often hyper aware of emotional undertones, even things left unspoken. Their FE, the extroverted feeling, will pick up on people's tones, their body language, their facial expressions. And over time, this creates kind of an emotional blueprint for INFJs to navigate their relationships. And because this extroverted feeling is so strong, sometimes they'll confuse the emotions of others that they are absorbing for the emotions that they themselves are experiencing. Right? I think this is a very key difference here, where INTJs are also equally adept at understanding the emotions of others, picking up on these subtleties as well, but they have a much more adept natural ability to compartmentalize these emotions. And so let's say the INTJ and the INFJ both hang out with the same person, they're depressed, they're going through whatever, I don't know, they just got out of prison, life's rough. The INFJ is going to leave that conversation still probably carrying the emotional conversational residue of that interaction. Whereas the INTJ, while also understanding that person, where they came from, their feelings, their emotions, are going to walk away from that conversation feeling like not really much has changed for them on a personal level, right? So they have this natural ability to kind of make a space within their mind for those emotional conversations, if you will. I hope this makes sense. So INTJs, they still experience emotions, it's just very privately, and they will only begin to integrate them after this logical assessment. And as a result, this may make them come across as feeling cold or irrational, but in truth, they're more focused on action and results rather than external validation. And that's not to say INFJs will empathize with someone because of external validation. It's just the like I said, the way in which they handle that conversation, this interaction, is going to look different. So anyways, as we kind of begin to wrap up here, this is not logic versus emotion. Both are abstract, intuitive types. INFJs use this vision to navigate interpersonal relationships and their own moral values, whereas INTJs use it to engineer systems, strategize outcomes, and achieve results. So in conclusion, they are two sides to the same intuitive coin. So anyways, guys, that is all I got. Let me know if this video resonates with you. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. If you guys are INTJs or INFJs, just what you guys think. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.